On this week's 51%, we learn about a Girl Scouts program teaching young girls how to identify their emotions and talk about their mental health.
Hey everybody, did you know that when you have anxiety, you can do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and it will help calm you down? It totally normalizes that we all have things to learn, and this is about taking care of ourselves, and this is a great thing to do.
We also speak with the woman behind Erin's Law about how teaching kids body safety helps prevent child sexual abuse. I'm Jessie King. It's all up next on 51%.
I was standing around like one of those girls I had seen in a movie. The whole world was a movie back then. I had my sunglasses on, I wanted to be seen without seeing Shiloh leader. I wasn't really in it, I didn't really get it.
You're listening to 51%, a WAMC production dedicated to women's issues and experiences. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jessie King. Today we're talking about mental wellness and body safety, and how we can teach kids about these issues early on to help them feel more resilient, safe, and confident as they grow up. In recent years, studies have shown kids are increasingly grappling with mental health challenges, including feelings of hopelessness and anxiety, and girls especially. A study by the CDC in 2023 found teenage girls are experiencing record high levels of violence, sadness, and suicide risk, with 3 in 5 teen girls reporting feeling persistently sad or hopeless in 2021, double the rate of boys that age. The CDC report recommended investing more in schools to help students that are struggling, but school isn't the only place where girls find community. Over the past few years, the Girl Scouts of the USA has held a patch program aimed at teaching girls how to get in touch with their emotions and talk about their mental health early on, and how to better support one another. The Mental Wellness Patch program adapts lessons on mental health to Scouts of all ages. I recently spoke with Brenda Episcopo, CEO of the Girl Scouts of Northeastern New York, to learn more.
Girl Scouts has always been a protective factor for mental wellness. We are the place for 120 years where girls find their best friends and they're supported by positive adults in their communities, people they know and trust, and they do great things together, all surrounded by a spirit of fun led by the girl, right? And at the end of the day, even if we were to do nothing more than create a safe, fun space surrounded by friends and positive adults, we've done a great job in helping our girls grow into their best selves. But we need to take it a little further as well. So Girl Scouts, everybody knows for our iconic cookie program, but this initiative really is an example of how our badges and patches that the girls earn and they have so much fun doing really do meet rigor for curriculum, and they teach them things that are important for their life. We just happen to do it in a way that is very fun.
When it comes to the different things that girls have to navigate with their mental health, what are some things that you're noticing amongst Girl Scouts that you want to help them with?
Well, we see this every day, but also the research lately has just very clearly demonstrated that young people, especially girls, are facing unprecedented levels of stress, anxiety, uncertainty about themselves, and that is exacerbated by the rapid change in digital access for kids. The pandemic had an impact on social isolation and loneliness. There has been a retraction from nature and public spaces in many cases, and just a general pervasive fear about the world. And it's impacted our girls and their caregivers and families and entire communities. And we have a role to play in that. We are a peer-based organization. We break social isolation down at its core. You won't just meet your best friend in Girl Scouts if you're a child. Our adults make their friends in peer groups in Girl Scouts as well. But as we've noticed the research becoming more clear about mental wellness struggling for girls, we as a movement in Girl Scouts thought it was really important that we address this head on with some very targeted and clear patch programs and curriculum that girls can do to learn great skills and still earn those really fun Girl Scout patches.
Yeah, tell me about the Mental Wellness Patch program. What different patches can girls earn?
Yeah, well, what's great about the patches is we bring in the content experts to make sure that we're really hitting the mark with our patches and badges. So working with the HCA Healthcare Foundation and NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, they helped inform the development of the patches, which launched in 2021. So there's 3 patches because Girl Scouts are different ages. And so we make sure that the patch is applicable to the age that the children are. So for our younger girls, the patch is Knowing My Emotions. And this patch teaches 5 and 6-year-olds, maybe up to 7-year-olds, how to name and understand their feelings and learning healthy coping strategies that they can understand and implement when they're feeling stressed out. Finding My Voice is the patch for middle school girls, and this focuses on the stigma around mental health and how to provide self-care and prioritizing that need and how to help your friends. And lastly, Showing Up for Me and You patch is for our oldest girls, and that gets them into peer support, navigating mental health challenges, and understanding the power of language when it comes to mental health. And so, these aren't lectures where they come in and we talk to them about these things and they earn their patch. These are hands-on, interactive, girl-led ways to learn how to do these things.
Yeah, let's talk about the activities and the lessons that you use. I really like that starting point of just knowing how to identify your emotions. I feel like there's a lot of adults that can maybe benefit from a lesson on that, to be honest. But how do you make it fun for kids?
So for example, Knowing My Emotions, there's a toolkit that the volunteer troop leader would get, and the emotions are spelled out in an age-friendly way, and there's an activity that goes along with it, and they can choose depending on, because it's all about girl-led, so they can choose whether they want to do a poster contest about their emotions, or do they want to do a craft that expresses emotion, or do they want to put on a skit for their families and caregivers when they come to demonstrate all the things that they just learned? And it really depends on each group of girls. We'll go about it slightly differently. I can tell you one of the programs that I've personally done, and as the CEO, it's not my full-time job to run the programs, but it is the best perk of this job when I get to spend time with the girls. And I ran a program at camp. It was hiking with the CEO, because that's my favorite thing to do. And what we did was girls who chose that particular activity at camp, we took a hike, depending on their age, determined how long it was, and we made 5 stops on the hike. Each camper got a little nature journal and a pencil, and we went off into the woods, and our first stop was everyone calm and quiet for just a few minutes. Take notice of 5 things that you can see with your eyes and write them in your journal or draw a picture of it, or when the time is up, tell your friend. And everybody wrote down 5 things they could see. And then we shared, what did you see? And Jesse, you might have said, look at that cool cloud. It's shaped like an elephant. Isn't that neat? And everybody would look. And I might say, I saw this tiny piece of grass and there was a little baby ant on it, and everyone runs over, oh, the little baby ant. And what it does is it teaches them to grounding techniques in their environment, and also how differently everybody sees the world. And that's what makes it so fun and interesting to see the world from different points of view. Stop 2 would be tell me 4 things that you can touch. Stop 3 would be 3 things that you can hear. Stop 2 would be 2 things that you can smell. And stop 1 would be 1 thing that you can taste. What do you taste in the air? And this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is a well-known grounding technique for stress and anxiety. I just built it into a hike to make it fun and experiential. We would debrief, like ask questions. What did you learn? What do you hear? What do you notice about each other? And then by the end, when we would ask our campers to say, so what did you just learn in this hike with the CEO? It always astounds me how articulate our Girl Scouts are, but they were saying things like, well, I found that by the time I got to the second stop, I was feeling much calmer because I was very jittery today. So I could use this sometimes when I'm feeling jittery to help myself be calm. And another girl said, I learned how to do this activity by my counselor when I'm feeling anxious. So, hey, everybody, did you know that when you have anxiety, you can do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it will help calm you down? And everyone said, really? What else did you learn? And so it totally normalizes that we all have things to learn. And this is about taking care of ourselves. And this is a great thing to do.
I think that's a great lesson. And, that grounding technique is something that I've personally used. I've volunteered for the crisis text line in the past, and it's a technique that they teach us there when talking to people who are struggling with either like high stress or high anxiety. It really does kind of take you out of that panic and remind you of where you physically are and that you're physically safe. I guess when it comes to the later patches, like I think the showing up for me and you patch, what kinds of lessons are you teaching there? And obviously, this is maybe when the discussion might get more serious. How do you tackle these subjects in a relatable and appropriate way for kids?
The showing up for me and you patch is all about how our language shapes what we think about mental wellness and how stigmatizing language can have a bad impact, and how we as girls can be aware of our own language choices. And then what do we do when others are using language like that? How do we intervene in a safe way to stand up for a friend or to stand up for ourselves or just to educate somebody about the impact of the choice of their words? And it's really quite powerful, actually. Using your voice for things that matter is one of the core values of Girl Scouting. So it's no surprise to our Girl Scouts that we're teaching them how to do that, because that is part of what we do. But to give them the tools to actually be able to do that in real time is great. They've used those kind of skills in their schools, in their libraries, especially when they're working on their highest awards, like their silver and their gold award. We've had Girl Scouts who have written books, like they've done children's stories about how to use your words better, and it never ceases to surprise me what they do.
Well, how is the program doing so far? How do the girls like it?
Oh my gosh, they love it. And our troop leaders are intrepid. They are fearless, because if you think about it, if you're an adult and you're charged with a group of 10 to 20 girls and you want to talk about mental wellness, that could be a little intimidating. What if important things come up? How do I handle this? So we have the wraparound supports for caregiver toolkits, what to do if a serious issue comes up in your troop, how to talk about hard things and serious issues, so that there's a wraparound ecosystem of support. And we have a partnership with NAMI so that we can plug supports directly in if they think they're going to need it for their troop meetings. We've had Girl Scout troops with girls with serious mental health struggles. We've had girls who've been hospitalized for mental health needs and still able to provide a way for their troop to talk about hard things in a way that lifts everybody up. And it's really great. But we've had more than 200 girls complete the patch program, and 97% of them said that it helped them think differently about the things that make them feel sad or anxious. And that is just absolutely astounding. If we can help girls think differently about sadness and anxiety, we are really making an impact.
Well, Brenda, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. What's next for the program?
Well, I think our goals in the future with this program is we're still trying to reach more girls. We think we have a lot of girls we could reach that haven't done the patch yet. And even girls who are not in a Girl Scout troop, we have what's called Juliets. These are Girl Scouts who sign up and they do Girl Scouts with their caregiver or their mom or their aunt or an adult mentor in their life. They can join Girl Scouts and do these patch programs too. So it's not just for somebody in a troop. So I don't think people really realize that it's widely available, and it's also evolving. We have a new patch that's just coming out about body awareness and body health. And so, it's just the next step in these conversations and getting really specific on a topic that relates to emotional wellness as well.
Brenda Episcopo is the CEO of the Girl Scouts of Northeastern New York, which represents nearly 10,000 Girl Scouts in 15 counties across New York State. You can learn more about the Mental Wellness Patch Program at girlscoutsneny.org. Our next guest is a longtime children's advocate who has successfully fought for the passage of Erin's Law in 38 states. Erin's Law is named after Erin Marin and requires public schools to hold age-appropriate classes on what she calls body safety, to teach kids about consent and how to recognize and report sexual abuse. Marin is herself a 2-time survivor of child sexual abuse, and while she sat through multiple school drills on what to do in a fire or a natural disaster growing up, she was never given a lesson on what constitutes inappropriate behavior from an adult, nor how to get help about it. Marin is now determined to get sexual abuse prevention courses in schools across the country, and to that point, the Erin's Law Foundation has released a free curriculum that schools and parents can access online. I spoke with Marin to learn more. Just a heads up to our listeners that this conversation discusses child sexual abuse. If you or someone you love has been impacted, organizations like Child Help have counselors available 24/7 by calling or texting HELP to 1-800-422-4453.
Erin's Law requires personal body safety taught in public schools once a year, teaching kids safe and unsafe touch, safe and unsafe secrets, empowering them with their voice on how to report abuse if it is happening to them, so that these kids know how to speak up, because 90% of the time when children are being abused, it's by someone they know and trust, and yet as a society, we focus so much on stranger danger.
That term body safety, maybe we should define that. What exactly does that look like? How do you practice it?
So body safety is one way to explain this is through the curriculum, we teach kids this bubble around you and that you're the boss of your body. And anything from even somebody hugging you, if you don't want that, you use your voice and say, no, I don't like this. So many kids don't know how to speak up and tell. They freeze. And, that's with consent, using your voice on how to tell somebody. The grooming process. Predators often don't just sexually abuse a child. It often starts with hugs, touching the hair, grabbing the thighs. In my case as a child, my perpetrator, for the first time, I was standing in a kitchen, came up behind me and reached up to a cabinet to grab a cup and rubbed his body up against me. And I knew something wasn't right. Another survivor of this man told me how he had started playing with her hair and she got creeped out. Then another day he's rubbing her shoulders. This is grooming behavior. In my case, unlike hers, she got out of it and never was actually sexually abused by this man. Where me, he came after me, locked me in bedrooms, assaulted me on many occasions, and threatened me. And that's what these predators do. They use threats to keep kids quiet. So some of his threats were, if you tell anyone, I'll burn your house down. Your parents won't love you anymore. And so these are the thoughts I was constantly being told, and nobody was saying, Erin, if this is happening to you, you report it. You'll be believed. Because both by him and then fast forward from 11 to 13, sexually abused by a relative, Erin, nobody will believe you. You will destroy our family. You have no proof. And these are thoughts I would think about and keep it a secret. So I wrote about it in my childhood diary instead, because I believed these lies. I feared for my life. And that's the power and control. And nobody said, you will be believed, Erin. This isn't your fault. Speak up and tell. Mm-hmm. And that's the one lesson I wish I would have got. And now I have made my mission to give kids the voice I never had.
We've got Erin's Law in 38 states now. How has implementation of these laws looked so far?
So it has been, yes, as you mentioned, passed in 38 states and just recently Ontario, Canada. And it is only required once a year. I'm not telling legislators we need to do DARE that requires 6 weeks of it. And if we teach kids the 8 ways to say no to drugs, why are we not teaching kids the 8 ways on how to get away and tell today? And so it's being implemented across the country. Some states, it's K to 12. Other states like New York, it's K to 8th grade. And some states like Oregon require it 4 times a year. So every bill is written a little different. But the most important thing that I want to get across is that we teach it once a year. Because legislators often tell me, we already require so much of schools to teach. We're adding one more thing onto them that they don't have time for. And I make the argument back, if we can make time for arts, recess, music class, we can give up one of those to teach kids this powerful message. Because these kids are sitting in your classroom. Statistics say 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused by the age of 18. These kids are sitting in our classrooms and they're being labeled, with an IEP, behavior and emotionally disturbed child, like I was. I repeated first grade. I threw tantrums on the floor. nobody knew what was going on in my life. They blamed it on other things. And so had I gotten this curriculum, I feel I would have been spoken up and told instead of believing these threats. And there's success stories coming out. A mom in Nashville, Tennessee reached out to me in December telling me, I can't thank you enough for your law. My twin daughters learned it, and one of them reported immediately how they were being raped by their father. They testified for over the course of a trial 2 years, and they just recently got him convicted in 80 years in prison. Imagine if Tennessee never passed this law in 2014. These girls would continue to be abused because they were being threatened. The most powerful story, and the one that I am taking to legislators across this country, is what happened in New York. New York killed my bill for 8 years. Something lawmakers find out about me is I don't go away. I'll keep coming after you until you pass this. And one day when it finally passes, I will be contacting you to show you the proof of why this law needs to be taught. And so 8 years New York killed it. I finally got it through. And in the first year in 2020, 2021, in Hilton, New York, a child abuse prevention educator came in and taught Erin's law. 9 children in that one elementary school came forward. And when it went to trial, 26 boys took the stand and said the principal was sexually abusing them on multiple occasions. A 19-year-old got up there and said it happened all throughout elementary school. Think for a moment, if New York didn't kill this bill for 8 years, there were 6, 7, and 8-year-olds on the stand that were babies and toddlers and could have been saved from this. They put them behind bars for 62 years after all these boys testified, and this is the example showing that this law works, and there's many other predators like Principal Kirk Ashton that are harming kids across this country that need to be stopped, which is why I've actually been going in these remaining 12 states to tell them this is important, you need to do it, and by not doing it, you are failing kids. And they make dumb arguments. We don't have time for this. They think it's sex ed. We're going to teach our first graders about sex or abortion. I go, look at the curriculum. That's out there. This is not that. And one of the biggest arguments I get told is, Erin, this is an unfunded mandate, which is why I am now checking that box with the Erin's Law Foundation curriculum.
Yes, your foundation just released a free curriculum that schools can use for this. Tell me what those lessons are like. You know, like you said, this isn't sex ed, but still, how do you talk about it in a way that's age appropriate and that kids can understand?
Yeah, so the younger the kids are, we do things like musicals where they stand up. Simon Says, touch your nose, touch your head. And we're, giving these kids this concept of your body parts and the parts of your body that are private. Nobody ever touches you there. And if somebody does, you need to report it, unless in the situation of a doctor having to check you with your parents in the room, or maybe mom or dad helping bathe a little baby brother. But any other circumstance that you are the boss of your body, nobody should ever be touching you there. Who are some safe adults that you can find and report this to? Because often some kids will report it to one person, and that person doesn't believe them or do anything about it. Often that is like a mom not wanting to believe the dad or stepdad has assaulted the child. So they silence the kid and say, this didn't happen. Don't tell anybody. We'll be homeless. You're going to put your dad in jail. So needs to teach kids that if you tell that one person, nothing happens. You need to keep speaking up and telling. Teaching, like I said, about grooming. How, if you get that uncomfortable feeling, somebody hugging you, somebody brushing up against you, touching your shoulders, touching your hair, things like that, trying to get you in an isolated position, you have to listen. And we always tell kids this, listen to that gut feeling. And they close the Erin's Law curriculum with teaching kids, if you need to talk to somebody today in private, please reach out to us, or they have it, write it down on a piece of paper. They do a whole closing message to make sure the kids are understanding the concepts, the vocabulary of what they've just been taught, and then allowing kids, if they need to talk to someone, you can reach out to us.
When you get to the older grades, and like you said, it varies by state, how far up in the grade system that schools will teach this. But what kinds of conversations are you having then? Because I have to imagine that's when it's more than just body safety, but also like digital safety and practices on their phones and online. And I guess I didn't realize that New York only goes up to the 8th grade. Why was it written that way? Why stop the lessons there?
I am honestly not sure why the language was written that way. I think it's because in most states, it's already required in high school. It was for me. They did a whole week on sexual assault awareness, on being drugged, alcohol, and being taken advantage in those situations. When you get into the older grades, we're more talking about, there's often boyfriends that can force people into assaults. There are situations with our cell phones. They're so dangerous. Teachers that exchange text messages with kids, and that's a grooming behavior. Teachers should not have their students' cell phones, be friends with them on Facebook. This is another grooming tactic. They don't have good boundaries. You should not do that. And teaching kids the dangers of your cell phones, sending pictures, where that image can go, how far away it can go, and it's permanently out there forever. So these are type of things that you go beyond. I mean, even the games, the video games, how predators access kids. And one of the things that I created with the high school, middle school curriculum, I specifically created a video back in my own first grade classroom, the time in my life I was being abused and throwing tantrums on the floor. I went back there to create videos talking directly to students so they understand why you're being taught this. You know, giving them that understanding of why are we being taught Erin's Law? And I feel when they hear directly from me, I show them my diary, how I kept this a secret, and give them the knowledge, and it really opens up their eyes and gets their attention.
In terms of teachers having to report cases of abuse, does this curriculum touch on that for teachers about what they should be doing?
Yes, that was the other video I made. I made a video speaking directly to teachers, the warning signs to look for when you're teaching Erin's Law or throughout the year of an abused kid, the grades dropping, just the child withdrawn the way I was, became a happy kid, severely depressed, withdrawn, and educating them on the proper way to handle when a child discloses. Because so often they just tell the principal and think their job is done. You across this country are a mandated reporter in every state. And if a child discloses this, you need to pick up the phone, call the hotline, call law enforcement, and let them know what this child has done. Because you are failing these kids and not doing your job when a child comes to you and all you do is tell your administration, tell the principal, and put it on them. That's not right.
Well, Erin, thank you for taking the time. Is there anything about the Erin's Law curriculum that we haven't touched on that you want to make sure schools and parents know?
No, but just that they can go to my website and review it. This is not just for the public schools. While it's only mandated in the public schools, homeschooling families, parents can teach this to their kids. Parents, I encourage them, after this is taught, follow up with your children. Look at the lessons. See that they retain this information that they were taught.
Erin Marin is an advocate for survivors of child sexual abuse and the executive director of the Erin's Law Foundation. Currently, 38 states have passed Erin's Law, which requires public schools to teach body safety and child sexual abuse prevention classes across various grades. The Erin's Law Foundation now has a free curriculum that schools and parents can check out at its website, ErinsLawFoundation.org. And again, if you or someone you love has been impacted by child sexual abuse, Child Help has counselors available 24/7 by calling or texting HELP to 1-800-422-4453. Thanks for listening to this week's 51%. 51% is a national production of WAMC Northeast Public Radio in Albany, New York. It's produced and hosted by me, Jesse King. Our associate producer is Madeline Reynolds, and our theme is Lolita by the Albany-based artist Girl Blue. Just a reminder that you can listen to 51% anytime at WAMCpodcast.org or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can stay in the loop on all of WAMC's shows by signing up for our weekly newsletter, Airwaves, at WAMC.org. We hope you'll join us next week. Until then, I'm Jesse King, 51%.
I was every single girl, I was nobody else, I was so sure of myself. I was 15 and a half. He was a hollow laugh. And I lost my cool.